If in 2025 you don't know who you are, you don't know your values, you don't have your own opinions, that's problematic.
I'm doing the math here and something's just not quite adding up.
One TV series caught my attention long before it actually started due to their social media presence. But it wasn't just the social media editing, it was rather what was featured in the clips. And what I saw was brilliant. So naturally, I had to watch it. I'm talking about Hypertension, a show that's adapted from the original French version now into the US market. And of course, it's reached the whole world. But what really made an impression on me was that Hypertension seems to be the blueprint for neurodivergent employment.
The technical term is high potential intellectual. It means you have advanced cognitive abilities, intellectual creativity, photographic memory, stuff like that.
Hi, I'm Stellian, Lightworker, storyteller, authenticity, alchemist, and proudly neurodivergent. So, watching Hypertension is a little bit like watching myself in the workplace and also understanding why so many neurodivergent people struggle to fit in. I think it was in the second or third, maybe it was even in the first episode, but Morgan, the main character, she admits to struggling when it comes to keeping jobs, when it comes to keeping relationships, because she's just different. And that's the prevalent feeling that neurodivergents have. We feel out of place, we feel different, and society keeps reminding us of that. But it's not necessarily a compliment, it's rather that we're being pointed at as if we're the misfit that represents a huge problem to the status quo, because our presence naturally brings up questions. It naturally brings up disruption. We want to know more and we want to know why. And most people are okay with the vagueness. Not us. We want to know why we're doing the things that we're doing, and we want to bring order to the chaos, especially when it's going to allow us to work more efficiently and more productively, and it's going to help us get to the truth, to justice.
So it's some sort of a gift?
No, not a gift. I obsess over every little problem I see. My mind is constantly spinning out of control, which makes it impossible to hold a job, a relationship, a conversation.
Speaking about employment, the first thing that you notice is that Morgan is a consultant. So she's working on a freelance basis. She has a very flexible role as part of a huge institution. To me, that represents the rise of the consultant and the rise of neurodivergence being embraced by the corporate environments, by the established industries or established systems that are ready for the disruption without bringing it at a full-time basis. So the institutions that are ready to embrace new ways of doing things, new ways of thinking, because they understand that it's the way to productivity, to innovation, to getting the results that they need, without disrupting the status quo too much, without bringing the foreign energy into the familiar systems at the expense of confusing the employees too much. But at some point, a good employer is going to recognize that the purpose of a business is to keep it successful, to keep hitting targets. And so if you have a group of people that all think the same way, that are more neurotypical, they cannot drive the innovation the same way that one single individual that is neurodivergent can, because they see the world differently, because they can recognize the patterns that people are repeating daily unconsciously, and they can bring your attention to it. Which is why the rise of the consultant might be a trend that we notice in the next decade.
Well,
Are we hugging?
absolutely not.
Okay, well, take it easy to say it like that. So, my badge? What? Oh, I must have lost it.
You lost it, and I found it in the woods.
Get some rest, detective.
You too, consultant.
The second reason Hypertension is the blueprint for neurodivergent employment is that it shows us what it's like to have a misfit as part of the key team, as part of the team that goes out and explores and it does the research. Because the misfit sees what's missing or doesn't fit. Because they've been pointed out to be the misfit for so long. They've learned what it's like to fit in and what it's like to stand out. And at some point, the misfit might own up their authenticity and recognize, do you know what? I'm going to embrace all that makes me stand out and I'm going to promote it to other people. I'm going to empower other people to believe in themselves and to embrace their authenticity as well. But because they understand what it's like to not fit in with the structures, or, that there might be a missing link somewhere, a missing point in communication, they're able to recognize what is out of the ordinary, what needs to be there, but it's not there because of their hypervigilance. They see the world in patterns. And due to their systemic rejection and failure, the neurodivergent is more familiar with the system than the neurotypical, which is reason number 3 that this is the neurodivergent blueprint for employment. Because they've been systematically rejected and failed, they can support others in moments of crisis because they're not defined by those rejections and those failures. If anything, they understand the system functions that way. It's only natural that it's going to reject me and fail me because I am not designed to fit in the system.
When are we getting the car back?
Do you have any idea how much carburetors cost?
$395.95.
Ah, plus tax.
$420.89.
Plus labor.
I don't know how much labor costs.
Nobody does.
Stop showing off, both of you. You can pay for groceries like a normal person. You don't have to perform.
It's not on purpose. I just see the numbers. I can't help it.
But because I'm not designed to fit in the system, I can support others that are ready to break free from the system, or others who have recently been rejected and failed by the system, which can happen in a moment where the world organizes a smear campaign or the world does an act of injustice. That's where the neurodivergent Spidey sense, they can pick it up very quickly when there's been some sort of rejection or failure due to the system default wiring, and they can be an advocate in moments of need very easily because they've been advocating on behalf of their needs and their representation and their identity their whole life.
She claims to know nothing about Lynette's whereabouts, but Zhang has no alibi. We have her at the scene, and we have motive.
Once we make the arrest, we'll lean on her for Lynette's location. Start writing it up.
Yeah.
The video has the wrong date on the timestamp.
This doesn't concern you anymore?
Great.
Wait, what are you talking about?
That's not from yesterday. Look at the trees. The wind is blowing from south to north. Wind in the LA basin blows from the south in the summer, specifically mid-July to September. Then in late fall, winds shift in from the north, peaking in January. So that's got to be from several months ago.
How do you know which way the wind is blowing?
Have you even looked at your footage? You got a church. Churches face east. Okay, around the 8th century, priests started orienting their churches facing east. They said it was based off the designs for the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. But it's also possible that they wanted the sunrise behind them to make themselves appear more godlike and impressive. But that's not something we need to get into right now.
And the final reason, hypertension is so important in today's climate where more people are talking about ADHD and autism and representation, and it's a spectrum, and that we all have different social needs, different needs altogether, but different social needs as well. While the neurodivergent can be considered problematic because it follows a different script and doesn't adhere to societal standards, they also bring up wisdom that has been curated in the process of living in the background, separated from the pack. They've made observations and they've reached conclusions that the pack is yet to reach. But ultimately, the neurodivergent disrupts the system because it doesn't accommodate the needs and identity that they represent, which is too diverse from the norm. Because they've observed how society operates at a distance, they've noticed that many other people, they don't share the same belief system, they don't share the same identity, They don't even share the same habits. They're pretending to like the same things, to be the same, because they crave the belonging. But in reality, we all have different features, skills, different authenticity blueprints altogether. Especially when we take the time to figure out who we are. And so the neurodivergent person, even if it's just one person in a team of 50, they're going to be able, especially if they're super strongly rooted into their own identity, they've understood who they are and they're unshakable in their understanding and awareness of who they are. They can awaken people. They can trigger people into the self-reflection that is necessary for them to figure out who they are. And having Morgan on the team, watching her transform the dynamics of the team in the first season of the show, it was absolutely brilliant because I've experienced the same thing. And I remember when I was at the point of that self-reflection and I thought to myself, I no longer want to pretend. I no longer care about fitting in because I never did feel like I fit in, even if I was accepted into groups, even if I joined groups. A part of me, especially when I had the time to reflect on things, was like, well, they never shared my interests. I always felt like I had to be the one to go and promote to people. Let's go out to this club. Let's go out and see that museum. Let's go out and see that city. Let's go and do something. I had to be that promoter to encourage people to do something that to the outside world, they wouldn't be able to what's the word? To gain social approval, social credit, social status by doing these things simply for the sake of doing those things. What? No. Can I take an Instagram picture? What can I say about this? Like if not enough people are doing this activity, why would you want to do it? That kind of thing. Whereas for me, it was always about wanting to try something, wanting to see something like a place that just opened up or a place that has alternative music. I wanted to be there. I wanted to read the authors that were just emerging. I wanted to do the things that most people weren't interested in because these things weren't established just yet. But I could sense that there was something different about them. And I knew that they were emerging. I knew that there was something special about them. And I wanted to go and support them. But the people around me, they kept thinking, because they were part of the pack, well, the pack doesn't go there. So why would I? Right? And so me volunteering to do these things, it didn't matter until it did. And then I had no interest in being involved with the pack. In the workplace, I remember that moment of self-actualization. Not self-reflection anymore. Self-actualization, where I firmly embraced my identity. And something beautiful happened is that I was able to have conversation at a greater depth with the exact same people where we would normally just talk about the weather or how are you? Good. Yeah, great. We're actually able to talk about dreams and fears and goals. And one of the most memorable things that happened to me was that I was able to talk to an executive at the time when they were above me, hierarchically speaking, but they didn't necessarily encourage me to just think about the company. They encouraged me to think about how I can be of service to the world. And I think this was the difference. They weren't necessarily neurodivergent, but they reminded me that I shouldn't be afraid to be neurodivergent openly, to share my views and to be who I am, because the world becomes a better place when we each embrace our identity. And this person recognized that there was something different about me, but they didn't try to stop me from being different. Instead, they encouraged me, be more like yourself, because who else do you want to be? And I did not expect that. I didn't expect that level of acceptance and belonging that I can receive by not having to fight to have a seat at the table or not having to fight to be heard. I just was, and I was heard. I was listened to, and I was encouraged to be even more of myself. And I think this is what Morgan's presence in the show is doing to the team. Instead of them being the detective and Detective A and Detective B, Detective C, we get to hear more about the identity that they each hold. They're not just a group of detectives. They each have something unique about them. And Morgan, with her questioning, with her ability to notice the things that normal perception might miss, it's bringing that awareness. And imagine that into the everyday workplace and utilizing the power of authenticity. How much more belonging the everyday people are going to have in a team. And when you have belonging and when you have people that are encouraging you to share more of who you are with the world, you don't think about finding another job. You don't think about finding a new team because you already have your needs met. The need to self-actualize and the need to be accepted. Even if you find that acceptance within one or two people in the team, that's enough because you recognize that you're not invisible, that you're being seen for who you are. Not necessarily that you're invisible and that people are ignoring you, but rather that they're seeing you for who you are. Because it's one thing to be accepted for something that the world wants you to be or projects onto you, and a completely different thing to be accepted for who you truly are. And this is what Hyperpotential showed us. There was a misfit. They saw the value in the misfit and they invited the misfit to join them. But they never treated Morgan as a misfit. Instead, they treated her as the missing person on the team, the missing asset that they never needed, that they never thought they needed, or I should say.
Beware of the poisonous dart. One touch can be deadly.
Karen, wait! Wait!
If you're neurodivergent and you don't feel like the current workplaces are offering what you need to be supported, I'm here to tell you that the workplaces are changing and the skills that you're bringing, they're going to be in demand. And this goes even before we enter the spiritual realm. This is entirely based on the wiring that you have, your abilities at the level of the conscious mind, your emotional intelligence. This goes even before we talk about spirituality and bringing those same skills to the next level. Because then the most visionary companies, they're going to have the greatest advantage. And it's not even about the competitive advantage. They're going to have the greatest advantage when it comes to team morale and team communication. Because you're going to have these super teams where people actually like each other and they love spending time with one another because they're learning from one another. They're growing side by side. They're changing the world side by side, which is not something that we're seeing today. We're seeing a lot of program teams, some even brainwashed teams that have been tricked into this cult-like behavior and following. And some of them are very dystopian. And they pride themselves in having these amazing teams, but those teams are this close to being completely fired or for the teams to reach the point of total burnout because they're being pushed to their limits without actually having that belonging and that acceptance that they need based on the two needs, to be who they are and to be accepted as who they are. And how can you be accepted as who you are if you don't know who you are, or if you haven't embraced your authenticity, if you're still hiding who you are? Or if the workplace, if the societal structures are mocking you and laughing at you for wanting to be different. So high potential, it is the blueprint for neurodivergent employment. We're going to see the rise of the consultant. We're going to see the misfits that represent the missing asset in teams that are going to bring the best in other people as well, simply by being invited to join the experience. And we're going to see more people breaking free from the systemic rejections and failures that are designed to do exactly that, to keep breaking people, to keep letting them down. Because that's one way to keep them in a state of submission, in a state of worshipping the false idols versus reclaiming their authenticity and sovereignty. And we're going to see more people proudly displaying their authenticity because authenticity is not problematic. Having your own identity is not problematic. Being a sheep is. Being part of the pack without understanding what the pack represents, where the pack is going. Being out of alignment with your own purpose, with your own higher self, that's problematic. If in 2025 you don't know who you are, you don't know your values, you don't have your own opinions, that's problematic. The neurodivergents are disrupting the system, but they're only doing so because it's time. They're merely reminding us that it's okay to be different and it's okay to be who you came here to be. And if you've ever had any doubts if you should break apart from your friendship group, do it now. And find your own soul tribe by having the courage to be yourself. And if you need a little bit of extra courage, go and watch Hyperpotential. I'm sure you're going to find some inspiration and motivation to share who you are. Have you watched Hyperpotential? Share your thoughts about the series. And if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching.